Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And here we are, another season, another theme with the Chameleons Bloom podcast. As our community continues to blossom and bloom, I've decided to center this season around the topics of diversity and community. TCB, the Chameleons Bloom, has become such a diverse community, so why not make this season all about that? Season 3 will not only cover the topic of cultural diversity, but we'll also cover a general garden full of diverse topics that affect the Muslim community in one way or another. What does that entail? Well, grab your cup of Halal Goodness and join us for this season with your host, Khadija. Welcome to this week's episode. Today we actually have a really interesting topic and a really lovely guest to accompany me with this topic. We're going to be talking about apostasy and, why sisters or why girls leave Islam. I think this is a very important topic that I guess not many people talk about. So we're going to talk about that today. With me today is my lovely sister friend. I am, if you don't know who she is, she's been on our stories as guest admin, Indian Revert Muslimah. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum assalam.
Welcome back.
Very happy to be back.
So we're talking about apostasy today. Like always, I like to start things off with explaining or defining what the topic at hand means. Like, how do we understand someone as an apostate?
So, when I started searching at the dictionary meaning of this word, so I was very surprised that this is not only for religion. It actually stands for any person when he abandons or renunciates his religious or political belief or any principle.
Right.
But since we are going about the religion specific and Islam specific, so here in this case, it actually means any Muslim who then becomes a disbeliever, who abandons the Islamic beliefs and stop believing in the 6 principles of Iman.
Right.
So that is what apostasy means, technically. What do you think?
I got actually the same dictionary definition as you.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do I understand someone who is an apostate? Basically, I understand similar with you. I understand apostasy as leaving Islam and no longer practicing. Abandoning one's belief in Allah and Islam. May Allah protect us from such a tragedy and always keep us firmly guided and die as Muslims in the state of worship upon Tawheed. I mean, sorry, I have to always add in duaa because it's just such a serious matter.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, okay. So that's what I got, and that's what I feel as well.
Since the question is of how do we understand someone as apostate, so is it up to us to actually observe and understand someone as an apostate, or should we should it be up to the person to come out with it or figure it out that yes, the person does not believe in Islam at this point and vocally come out with this thing that he is an apostate.
Right. Personally, I don't think that. I mean, unless it's a family member, one of our family members, and I'm saying if you're married or you have kids, whatever. I don't think that it's really our business. I feel personally that anyone who believes in something or has a belief in something that's very personal and private to that person. So I feel it's really not my business to sort of guess oh, maybe she left Islam, I mean, I will have that curiosity, but it's not she's she left Islam. I wouldn't point fingers and you know what I mean, because it's just not my place. If someone left Islam, that's their own issue. They have they're obviously going through something or have gone through something to get to that point. And I think that is not something that, unless they want to tell me, I think that's definitely not something, that's a boundary that I just don't cross, you know? What about you?
I think the same as you, that it's none of my business. And but something that actually strikes me very often is that it's very different for converts and people who are born into the community. That is also what we are going to discuss a little later. Right. So what I have seen is that when it comes to converts, it's they don't have that kind of opportunity to even come out and declare, and it's not very apparent or important as well. Right. Not important, but what I want to say is that for us, we just go back to our parental society and then we start living our life. Whereas for born Muslims, a lot of them do live as apostates, and I am totally guilty of, judging inside within myself. Because we work so hard for it. I feel that something I had to fight so much, and then this person is just getting away with it so easily, and nobody is pointing finger at that person that are you an atheist, or you're behaving like one, and rather I think they get a lot of social backing also. So that is what makes me think, and that hurts me a lot when reverts they apostate. So that's, of
course, that actually ties in with our next question.
Yes.
Just having a sip of my halal goodness, my cup of halal goodness. So in your opinion, do you think people who stop practicing, like for example the 5 pillars of Islam, but they stick to a community or like a Muslim culture due to their roots, are the same as converts who stop practicing and stick to their birth community and culture? So you touched a little bit on this, but I'd like to hear a further elaboration.
So I definitely don't think that they are the same, because
interesting.
I am talking from a worldly perspective. Obviously, how Allah judges or how it is in Islam, it's both of them are same. An apostate is an apostate.
Right.
But from what I've observed is that I feel that Muslim gets a lot of, born Muslim gets a lot of social backup and a social support to come back into Islam. For instance, I know this one person. In fact, there's just one born Muslim I know in my life who has openly declared himself as an atheist, that he has apostated.
Oh, wow.
And what I see from his lifestyle is that he is still a part of the community. He gets invited for Eid or whatever is the cultural, or the social Muslim socializing things, whether it's the parties or nikahs, or whether it's the morning Eid namaz. He just goes, to join his family for it. But the person is openly an atheist. The person, he actually goes to the namaz or after the nikahs, if they happen. He'll stand outside the masjid and he will try to talk people out of Islam.
Oh, wow.
And, everything and all the audacity. But still the person is a part of Muslim community. The person gets to write on all his certificates and where it comes, your religion, because in India at least I see a lot of government documents, they ask for your religion, so he gets to write himself off as a Muslim, and I think he will still have a social backing, or suppose when he's dying, he will have a Muslim family who will try that he utters the Shahada while he dies. But that is not the case with converts. When converts apostate, and it is very hurtful, because I have seen, I think I can remember 3 more cases, and one was very, very close to me. And when she came out that, she apostated, or I think the day when we were speaking about it back then, just a day before that, one of my friends, she had told me that, she has been in suffering for too long, and it's actually been too long. I think it's almost 7 to 8 years of struggling alone without any support. And once they step out, there's actually...
You talked about this before, like with me?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was very upset about it, and that is how I thought that we must actually speak about it.
Yes, of course. Because there needs to be awareness.
Yes, and there are people who are thinking about it, but they are not speaking about it because they feel that they are probably the only one, and we might judge them, or we might shame them. But oh my God, how can you even think about it? But it is normal; it happens.
Yes,
and they need support, they need counseling. But that's not so. Coming back to my point, that when they leave, there's nobody around them, and the lifestyle restores back to an absolutely non-Muslim lifestyle. They have friends with them, or people at workplace, they identify them as, here it's Hindus instantly. And the family is not Muslim, and they are no more attending Eids, or they are no more being invited for anything. They are completely, rather I think they also shy away from the Muslim population because they are not able to relate at all. In fact, we, despite being in the Muslim community and social circle, are not being able to relate. And we are just there because we are there. I don't know why we are there. But so once they cut off, then as time passes, they become, Islam and Muslims become more and more remote. How it was when I was a kid, I probably didn't know a single Muslim for the first 25 years of my life.
Wow.
Till I started looking into, marriage or wanting to marry.
Right. So, wow. That's crazy.
So that goes back. And in India, where Muslims are such a minority, they're just, I think, 14-15% or 20% of the population. And as well as the ghetto system is there, that Muslims live in one area, Hindus live in one area. It is very easy to just completely get away from the community and Islam and Muslim and just completely forget. And when they die, of course, nobody's going to, they might not get the opportunity to come back, or that kind of motivation or platform.
That's crazy. Because my answer is based on living in Canada. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's a very different, it's different. It's my answer is very different.
Tell me. I actually thought that you will probably relate, think similarly, but I think this is where culture and representation comes up.
Okay, so mine is really different. I think I maybe I misunderstood the question, but I'll answer anyways. So because you asked, is it the same for a born Muslim and a convert? And I said yes, definitely. When you stop practicing, you stop practicing, which is what you mentioned. I think there's no fine line, and it's to me, the whole concept of this would be it's kind of like non-Muslim Arabs who just say "oh my God" in Arabic. And I really I think listening to your answer, I think that I misunderstood the question, but obviously we're talking about diversity, so I'll share what I wrote anyways. So yeah, it's non-Muslim Arabs saying "oh my God" in Arabic, or just saying with their tongue phrases that have God in it. So if they, for example, an Arab Muslim left Islam, they'll still say these kind of things. Do you know what I mean? Even if it doesn't have any meaning to it for them. It's just for us in the Western culture, people say "oh my God," but it's just a phrase. Do you know what I mean? So I feel also for example, the hijab is a cultural thing in many Muslim countries. So they wear it loosely, due to family or shame. They don't really know why they wear it. And it's kind of similar, for example, with East Asian culture, where you should dress modestly. You should, that's the key word, dress modestly, because you don't want to be seen as cheap or distasteful. It's shameful in the culture, right? So there's no meaning behind it except that it's cultural and part of I guess a communal practice that's associated with what society would think of you. So that's why I think that if someone leaves Islam and they go back to their own community, that's what they would be going back to. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And this is obviously in the Western culture, obviously saying East Asian culture, but like in Canada, in Toronto, it's like, you know, you have so many different ethnicities, and like it's just, if you're part of the Western culture there, you're like part of whatever else culture you are. So, you know, I'm speaking on both cultures. So I feel like when you stop practicing like the 5 pillars and you just continue blending in with the culture you were raised in, you'll still obviously carry on some habits, like one way or another, you know what I mean? But the difference is that they hold no merit, like there's no meaning, and it's just all on the tongue. Whereas when you actually practice sincerely, like it should be all coming from the heart, and you feel like you understand what you're doing and saying, versus just like doing it but not really aware of why, or like what, or like, you know, why you're doing it, who are you doing it for. So that was my answer. Like, it definitely is really different from...
But I have something is coming in my mind as I'm listening to your answer. What I want to ask is, don't you think there are already many such Muslims, whether it's converts or whether... Because there are a lot of converts who actually convert just to marry as well. That is a culture here in India. There are Muslim girls who convert to Hinduism to marry a Hindu guy, and it's vice versa as well. So in such cases also, don't you think there are already enough Muslims who are not practicing the 5 pillars, especially the Salah? And let's not speak about the first concept of Tawheed also. But yeah, there are already many Muslims, but they're not necessarily apostates. I mean, they might be disobedient or sinful,
right?
But they might still associate or have faith in Allah, maybe.
So that's the difference then. Yeah, so, you know, it's I don't know, like, I think that's actually a really good point. Because they are, like, they may not be practicing, but there's still, like, that small belief in their heart, you know?
Yeah, and as long as I think this relates back to the first question again, that as long as they think they are Muslims, they might not have apostated, even though they are not practicing.
Yeah, subhanAllah. That's true. That's really true. I think that, like, after listening to your answer, like, I think your like, how you responded to this, I guess, question is like more, yeah, like your points are more like correct, I think, because I think I misunderstood the question.
Yeah. Because this is something that really disturbs me, you know, because when I see my very close convert friends who apostated and they had to come out about it, and who left, but it's been probably 2 years or 3 years, and they've just been going further and further and further.
Yeah.
There was a time where I would say, okay, just pray, don't do anything, just pray, you know, pray your 5 prayers. Or then it became, okay, at least pray once or twice a day when you're at home, the Isha or something.
But
now,
you know
it's long lost, long gone.
Like, obviously our topic is like apostasy, but, you know, I think that, like, both of our points actually fit into this question, because
absolutely
the question is like, stop practicing, not like apostated, right? So you do have, like, I mean, there could be converts who stop practicing but do still also obviously like believe that Islam is the truth. But, you know, like, the difference is that their environment may be way harder than a born Muslim. You know,
they are, I think, openly compelled to practice shirk after that.
Yeah, because that's all they knew, right, growing up. Whereas, like, born Muslims,
that's
like,
their culture, because their family's into it, and if they're not practicing Islam, they're living there, and if there's any festival happening,
yeah,
or anything happening,
I mean, that's the same.
Stand there.
That's exactly the same with converts in the West too. Like, there's, you know, Christmas, and then there's like a bunch of like Chinese. Obviously, I don't know like how many like Chinese converts there are. There are a lot, but obviously I feel like the Western ones are more. But, you know, we still have Christmas, and like a lot of people love Halloween and all these crazy festivals, like, you know what I mean? I mean, even Muslims,
Right.
some of them celebrate Christmas because they think it's okay. Like, you know.
Many do.
Yeah.
I mean, you won't believe we have, as of now, in Navratri, it's a very huge Hindu festival that's being celebrated. And there's this work group that I have on WhatsApp.
Mhm.
And the first person to message Happy Mahasaptami, that's like Happy Durga Puja, whatever's going on, was a Muslim guy. And I was like, what's wrong?
What?
You don't have to. It's a huge group. Nobody will notice if you don't. You know, it's like a professional group. Nobody cares if you don't message. There are a lot of Hindus who are not messaging. Why do you have to message? There's so much of, I think this roots from I don't know what, and efforts to fit in or to prove that you're
yes.
okay with it.
Yes, you have to, like, it's a lot of them proving themselves, like, oh, we can coexist, and, like, you know, I support
and
you.
Are okay with it, you're tolerant.
Yes, exactly, like, exactly. But no one's asking you to be, like, you know, bend over backwards, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not...
No matter how much you bend over, the condition of India is such that they are not going to be impressed.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help. It will never help. So might as well just live your way.
Yeah, live your life, like, you know.
Stand no belief. This exactly. I mean, when I see such people, then I remember all these friends who, you know, the reason why my friends apostated, one major reason was because they tried too hard and it became very tough to, you know, stand by it 7, 8, 9, 10 years later. So that is what makes me, you know, it's something, you know, I'm very personally involved with this topic, because of which my mind keeps going back to
your friends. Yeah.
Yes.
And they were like your really close friends, I remember you saying. Or
yes.
One of them was really close.
One of them was really close. And the second one was, you know, the one who was speaking a week or two back, ago, that she was having these thoughts and all. So even she is pretty close. And I'm glad she told me, you know, whether she was thinking of this, because the others, it told me after they had apostated, that it was over. And I was very sorry that I probably didn't come to their mind when they were thinking, they were having these thoughts.
Right. Yeah, that's also very, like, heartbreaking. Like, oh, why didn't you just come talk to me? Like, you know?
So, Khadija, what do you think are the primary reasons that someone apostates?
Okay, so actually, I honestly don't know. I don't know, but I can speculate what are the reasons. And I honestly think that, like, so some of the reasons I think could be that one's understanding of what they chose to believe in was faulty, or they did it for a wrong reason.
Right.
Lack of support can definitely be a reason, as well as a loved one influencing them to apostate. Yeah, I know someone that, like, this happened.
Okay.
One could also be, I think this is actually it could be a very common one too. So one like, a person could have been too in love with the dunya and feel that, like, practicing the religion ended up becoming too burdensome for them. Like, it was just getting too much. These reasons that I mentioned are mainly due to one's wrong understanding of what Islam is, like, who Allah is. Also, I think, like, having wrong expectations and not having enough self-awareness or knowledge of oneself. For example, like, they don't know what their true purpose in life really is, and they don't understand their purpose in life, or they have a misconception of themselves. Yeah, I think that's actually a really important point. Like, this is, like, the pattern that I've noticed with people that I see leaving Islam. I think that also, I mean, adding on to my points, I think that some people are just not ready to make that huge leap. You know what I mean? Maybe they thought they were, but it ended up being, like, not what they expected. Like, they might have thought, like, oh, this is too much. Like, basically, they're running before they can walk. You know what I mean? They don't have that foundation set, and then they just want to jump climb the ladder already. So I think that's definitely a big reason too. Okay, yeah. So what about you? Or like, do you have anything to add on? Do you have commentary?
Yeah, I had the same point as this one, the one where you said where they try to run before they can walk, because I think mostly when I've seen, I can speak of the girls in their 20s. So we are very dreamy-eyed, and we have a lot of hopes and expectations, and the iman is so high when we just enter into Islam, and everything feels good, and sabr is so easy. And not easy, but it feels like wow, beautiful patient.
Yeah, like you're on this high,
Yeah, you're on this high, and then you feel that we take up a lot on ourselves, and along with that, I think when we take up a lot on ourselves, if we are not backed by some support, what I've seen is that okay, fine, even I took up a lot on myself initially, but Alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me with a good family, Muslim family eventually, and very soon into it. So even the times where I felt that I had taken too much on myself, and I can't do, or where my iman was low, apostating was out of the question because I had found a society.
Right.
So just like born Muslims, I might get low on certain things, or give up certain things that I had taken up, which was probably overburdening after a few years. It can be, the practice level got up and high and low, high and low, high and low. But I was in the faith, and Alhamdulillah, like maybe protected from such trials, which actually, push us out of the deen. But what I have observed from people who apostate is that they start just like how I did, okay, seriously, and a lot of efforts to learn Arabic, and we'll also do nakab, we'll stop all music, and then the intentions, alhamdulillah, only Allah knows best, but what I feel was quite sincere. It came from a good place.
Yes, but it always does. It starts off that way.
Yeah. But at the time they did not get the right support, when I think of it, had I been in that place where 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, I am just alone, living with my, non-Muslim mother, and constantly practicing, and Muslims, when we're seeing them for, marriage or something, they are behaving like jerks, and they are just going. And on top of it, you constantly see Muslims who got it easy, and they are absolutely ridiculous at times. So it becomes very hurtful and maybe frustrating. You can take it for a year, 2, 3. There's a limit. And eventually it becomes, you get so rubbed off. I know one girl who got so triggered ultimately because Muslims would nag her for wearing nail polish. And that was something she really loved. She really loved. And someone in her office, bullied her so much for it that she would tell me that she once started scratching it off with a blade.
Wow.
They would gild them so much. So that kind of makes someone very frustrated, because you're already doing 10 things, and for the 11th thing you're being judged, and you're being, bullied. And I feel rewards get very bullied, not by non-Muslims, but by Muslims more.
Oh, for
they are constantly, it's as if, hello Allah, you're already here. Like already our trials are beginning. Are you a Muslim? Do you know the meaning of Shahada? And are you actually a Muslim? Do you really believe in it? So it becomes very offensive, very humiliating, and a very second-class citizen treatment. And eventually, all this is also there for the first 2 years, the fascination of Muslims with you. Once you are a little older Muslim, 7, 8 years into it, then they are not around you. They're not interested in you anymore. You're not an eligible marriage candidate also. You become so interested in boys' life. So then all the good things go away, and all the frustrations, they stay. And because they are also God-fearing, they are very scared of leaving these things also. This one girl, she was asking me a few days back that I really like listening to music, and it's been 5, 6 years I've not listen to it, but I feel depressed. Can I listen to it a little bit? It makes me feel really nice. And you don't know what to answer, because I can understand where it's coming from, and it's so sad. It's very sad when it's lonely and you don't get companions in this road eventually. And I feel this probably, the loneliness is a major reason why people leave Islam.
For sure.
Because life was not as lonely when you were in the community, right?
Right. Community is so important. Whether even if you look at non-Muslims, they have their own community too. The clubbing people stick together, and they have things to talk about, or just I feel like I can't think of any other example, but okay, let's say people who have dogs, they have a little community, and they just bring their dogs to the park, and they all socialize there every Saturday or whatever. You know what I mean? Everyone needs.
There's dog community. There's mom's community.
Yeah, vegan community. Any kind of community. There's always a community for something, for someone. So I think it's really important. We need to recognize just how important it is to have this Muslim community. You know what I mean? Where not just
it is
converts. Yes, having our own converts community is important, but we should be also, we should be all integrated together. Muslim, born Muslims and converts. Do you know what I mean? And
we as converts, we are a minority. Even if we are in a place, for example, I think when I was in a smaller city, I was the only convert in that entire city. So I have to eventually, to find some mental compatibility, I have to look back at the Muslim community itself.
Exactly. It's so important. This is why
the converts need a good counseling and good support.
Yes,
it is.
It really is.
So do you want to add on? Because I kind of mentioned, what a person goes through from the start till the point of apostating. So what do you think? How does a person go through it and finally comes to the point where the person decides that, yes, now I'll apostate?
So I think what you said was pretty much you nailed it. I think it always starts off as overzealousness. They're very overly enthusiastic. And I think that goes with anything you first start. Do you know what I mean? You first start school, you first start your new job, you're so excited about it, and you just want to do so well and overachieve and really perform well, so I think that it always starts off with that. Then suddenly, subhanallah, Allah says, are you going to say that you believe and you won't be tried? Then a big catastrophic event happens, and you're tested, or and then your duas don't get answered for so long, and life gets very hard. That's the next stage. And then you're realizing oh no, everything is just so hard, where's the support? And then you're thinking to yourself, why did I enter this faith? Ever since I became Muslim, things have only gotten harder for me,
right. I also thought about this,
Me too. So many times, after I converted, my life just got harder. You know what I mean? I think many of us feel this, because it does get harder. No one said it's going to get easier, but you just, I think a lot of people don't realize that life is always going to be hard no matter what, but Islam is just something to help you cope with life. You know what I mean? But anyway, so this is what happens next. You start questioning your faith, and you're realizing it's too hard, and then you start finding excuses that it's not the truth. Where's the support? No one's with me, no one's there for me. And then you finally leave the faith. May Allah forbid that for me and all of us. I mean, I really think seeing the patterns of girls that I've either talked to or just being present on social media, things that I've witnessed, it's always been like that, And like you said, it ties back to the lack of support. I mean, obviously, like, we're not like, you know, we can't hold people's hands and like guide them through life. Like, that's not our job. But still having that support, like letting people know that, like, you know, I'm here for you. Like, you need to talk. Like, don't be shy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to judge you. Because we're all human beings. I think that's the thing. Like, a lot of converts, myself included, like, when I first converted, it's like, oh, I have to be like this super Muslim. Like, I can't fail and I can't make mistakes and I can't sin. You know, because like, why am I Muslim then? Like, if I'm gonna, like, you know, just practice like half.
Oh, we feel that you know, we've become Muslims, so we are on Allah's side. We'll obey everything He does, so He's on our side. We'll do everything we want.
Yeah, exactly. You know. So yeah, it's so like, subhanAllah, this topic, like, it's just so, it's so important to talk about. I'm really glad that you came to me with this topic. Really, it's like a must. Okay, so like, this next question actually ties into what we're just talking about. Like, do you think we can spot symptoms early on and help? And if so, like, should I ask this question next, or like maybe you just tie into it?
We can just go about it together.
Yeah. Okay, so do you think that you know, we can spot symptoms early on and help?
I think the symptoms of apostasy, no, but in general, if we are seeing converts who are struggling and who are lonely, you know, especially ones who are in non-Muslim majority areas and who are still with their families and have not come out and you know, started working or being financially independent, and if they have had a long tenure where they have not been able to get married as well. So these are some factors where we see that the girls are lonely, where they are emotionally intelligent girls. We should just be by them, you know, just give the vibe that you are there and they can call you or have you, you know, message you or text. I personally am a very introvert person. So there was this one time, I think you also know, probably for a year and a half or two, I went dormant on Insta. I hid my account, I hid my website, because it was again very draining. And you know, suddenly this 6 months back, maybe I started thinking whether I should start the page again or no. And a lot of thoughts, there were a lot of bad things in my head which were going on. But then I again reminded myself of the intent with which I had started. And it was because I had benefited from some sisters. And one of them was your one Chinese Muslim account.
Really?
On Blogspot. So I had just started in 2014. When did you start writing that blog?
The one Chinese Muslim?
Yeah.
2011, like, it was end of 2011. And
I started reading that in 2014.
Wow, really?
So, yeah, that's when I had started practicing. And again, I was just in this lonely phase. And that is what I think now, when I'm actually seeing friends who started with me apostating, I think that would I be in that place, or would I sustain this well by Allah's mercy, had I not got the things that I have got, because I received a lot of blessings and a lot of platforms from Allah to keep, you know, going on. The first was probably coming from a financially stable family. Second was parents not being abusive, not the South Asian abusive, like the standard of South Asian parenting is there, so abuse is there. But abusive, you know, the proper narcissist abuse kind of thing.
Right.
Huge abuse. So that I had better parents than most. Third was, you know, Allah blessed me with good education. I could be financially independent of my parents, and then, you know, a lot of things. I got married on time. I received social support on time. So a lot of it was Allah's blessings, and which the other sisters did not get. And I don't know what I did to deserve. You know, you feel guilty for getting the platforms. And in that case, I feel somewhere if you have received from Allah, we should give back. It is a answered responsibility. And we have to be there. I again came back on my page. I tried writing and it's not coming to me easily now. I don't know how it is. I think the pain is not there 2014. Because of which I'm not able to write very easily.
Yeah. But, that's what happens. I mean, I just started like writing again, you know, after a very long break.
You've been trying as well. I have noticed that you've been trying to make different pages, different stuff. How you started to be.
That's just me. I'm stable.
2015 concept of Big Sister concept, I remember.
Oh, yeah. That's actually, you know, that is actually like the page that we have now, TCB. I just deleted all the Big Sister stuff and use the same page. Yeah. Oh, was that in 2015?
Yes, 2014-15. That's when it's spoken to me that you had this concept of having a big sister where senior rewards can become pen pals for new rewards around their locality. Yeah, and it was a very nice concept, and that is something I wanted to do for girls in India.
Yeah, inshallah we're going to do that for TCB. We're doing that for TCB.
I hope Allah blesses it. I hope it actually manifests into something.
Inshallah, may Allah help us.
I mean, so that is how we can probably help, by being there, by telling, by not shaming them, by relating with their, thought process. It's like how you say, it's a safe space where you can say anything and nobody's going to comment on why you listening to music, why you posting why you not in the crowd.
I can't deal with that. We still get those kind of people in the DMs, but like at this point I just don't reply back and I just sort of like, you know, shame without shaming and just put a reminder on the stories. Like, you know,
I think I have shut up big time after I saw so many girls apostated. It was very heartbreaking for me. I think I have went to depression.
It's a really sad and you feel helpless, you know?
Very helpless. And again, you know, I felt if I pray a couple of tahajjuds, she will come back, but that didn't happen. And
well, maybe not now, but inshallah, like, you know, inshallah soon or with time.
Yeah, let's hope so.
I mean, we can't be hasty either with expecting them to come back right away, you know?
Yeah, and what are the signs that you think, you know, anything you want to add on? How we can spot potential apostates and, you know, help them?
Okay, so, I mean, we kind of talked about this. Like, I personally don't think that I can spot them. Okay, so actually, this is interesting. I personally don't think that I can spot them. And this is actually one of the main reasons, because there have been countless examples of stories, and I've even met like a few people myself who started off too eager and like very enthusiastic, overzealous. You know, practicing too quickly, too soon, like that whole like running before you can walk kind of thing. And then suddenly I get a message from a friend regarding that same person saying that they left Islam. So it's really hard to tell, because like outwardly at the beginning, everyone says the Shahada, and we assume in their hearts that they truly believe and love Islam. And maybe they do, but like, you know, along the way, like things got hard, and it's just, we don't really know their like deep intentions why they became Muslim, right? So it always starts off like they're practicing, they're like so hardcore, and then like suddenly it's like, oh, what like they left Islam, like it becomes like shocking news, you know? So I think that's why it's hard to spot the symptoms. The realistic point is like, I personally don't think that, you know, I can do anything to like make them not apostate, obviously, because ultimately it's Allah who guides and like leads astray. And also, I think we can't really control someone's experiences or control their life. So I think all we can do is like what we've been talking about, is offer like non-judgmental companionship and support them with like bits of encouragement here and there. I think this point that I'm about to mention is so important. So actively listening, and letting them know that we're here for them. Because I think like listening, like actively listening and not trying to like give them 101 reasons why Islam is the truth. Like, I think that's so important because Islam is the truth. Like, and you don't need to prove it. Like, do you know what I mean? The message is clear. If someone is looking for the truth and ready to welcome the truth, like that's up to them, you know, and obviously up to Allah. Yes. So we're not to convince, but only to convey. I think that we need to remember that. So if someone's coming to you saying like they're having doubts and they're not feeling like, you know, they want to believe or practice Islam anymore, like you don't need to like pull up your 60 tabs and like read everything why they shouldn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times, like these sisters, they just want like someone to listen to, someone to like, you know, just talk to. You know what I mean? Without any attachments. I think that's it. No attachment.
Like normal or like absolute normal humans, not this huge Alima talk.
No one is like super Muslim. Like, do you know what I mean? We're not like superhero Muslims, whatever. Like, so I think that's it. Like, you know what, subhanAllah, like, while, you know, people who are having thoughts and doubts about like Islam and stuff like that, like, I think the person on the other side, they also don't really understand how, like, what these people need. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they just think like, no, they need to like more information. They don't know enough. But it's, I think, like, if you really want to support, you support by just like being available and being a friend. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, maybe sort of like not look at this person as like, oh no, she's gonna leave Islam, I need to save her. Like, don't look at her like that. Like, just look at someone,
relate to her pain.
Exactly.
How she's feeling.
Exactly. Like, show empathy, sympathy, like feel, try to put yourself in their shoes. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, addressing the, you know, hurt and emotion rather than the lack of shortcoming of knowledge.
Exactly. Because I feel like a lot of us think that you should read this book, you need to watch this lecture, maybe you'll feel better, like, and see the truth. Like,
no, but there are a lot of people. Right. I mean, there are a lot of people who know very less but still have better iman, who are still there.
Yes, exactly.
That is not the reason why iman is in your heart.
Right, 100%. Like, Islam is not like just a cognitive thing, you know what I mean? Where it's like you read textbooks and you just get it. It's not. Like, the heart needs to work with the mind together. Otherwise, you know, like, that's why I think also, and I think I talked about this actually, maybe I'll save that. But yeah, I feel like it's just like the sister is thinking about leaving Islam. We also need to realize, like, okay, sometimes we have like this, like, oh, I don't want to say anything wrong. Like, maybe like my words might like trigger them and they'll leave Islam. Like, do you know what I mean? I think that like, we shouldn't overthink that. Like, we should just be there for them, like, give them the support.
I do that a lot. I overthink. Should I not?
Well, I mean, of course we should like still like think about, like, you know, we shouldn't throw words loosely around. Like, we should still obviously be aware of what we're saying, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think they just want someone to listen to them, like, you know, just letting them know, like, hey, what's going on? Like, I'm here for you. Please, like, know that I won't be judging you or anything. Like, you know, this is like an open door policy, judgment free zone, which is TCB is exactly this.
So have you personally had any experiences where you saw someone apostating and, you know, you were affected by it?
Okay, so I've met a few girls like here and there over the course of since I've converted, and so either they converted for the guy, which I'm saying that's the reason they converted, because it was obvious later, like, because the guy didn't want to marry her, or like they broke up. Obviously on their Facebook, like, it shows, like, you know, when you're not, like, when you're sharing like Christianity, like, again and stuff like that, like, you know, like, you don't you know what I mean? I mean, like, I don't want to like assume, but I mean, just from the apparent. So yeah, so basically, like, some girls like converted for the guy, and then he didn't want to be with her. Oh, there was actually one girl, and this is actually really sad. I think I think she's Hindu, actually. I don't know if she's Indian, but she was Hindu. Like, that was her religion before she converted. So she really sticks out to me because when she first became Muslim, like, she was like hardcore, like practicing really hardcore, like enthusiastic, and she was like, you know, like we all start out, you know, and then she actually had a lot of opposition from her mother, and I think her mom kept like sort of persuading her, like, no, don't, like, you're hurting me and blah blah blah, you know. So things started getting really really hard for her. She was living out, like, she wasn't living at home with her mom when she was like first practicing, but then like she moved back home, and then I guess she was not getting enough support, or she was getting the wrong kind of support, and her mom was just like guilt tripping her the whole time, and she was very like, she was very weak, like, with her faith, even though she started off like seemingly strong. So she just
maybe a terrible personality overall.
Yes, exactly. That's another thing, actually, a personality. But yeah, she just ended up apostating. Sometimes I think like people who apostate, like they do it because it's the easier way out. You know what I mean? I think that's like why it's important to learn the correct tawheed and not just jump to like fatwa, fanaticism, or even fiqh like right away. Do you know what I mean? Like the tawheed has to be firmly planted and understood first.
Right.
And obviously the prayer and like working on fasting. But like, I feel like a lot of converts feel that immense pressure because of the Muslim community. Like, you need to wear hijab right away and all those things. Like, you know what I mean?
I know.
Mm-hmm.
But wherein, if, you know, the Muslim girls were not wearing, they are allowed to be so, because, you know, they have their parents around. Nobody comes and, you know, bullies born Muslim girls for hijab and salah, because if, you know, their parents will come and blast them. Here we don't have anyone behind us. At least in India this is the case. You know, parents are very overprotective till you're married.
Right.
Nobody can come and bully their daughters.
Yeah, whereas converts, it's like so easy, like an easy prey in all aspects, you know. But I think like the most important thing is like obviously learning and solidifying the tawheed. That's the seed, you know. You need to plant that seed firmly, and then obviously like prayer is like something you do have to work towards as soon as you can. But like hijab and all those things, I would say, like, you know, cutting off things that are not good for you spiritually, like those things eventually should and will fall into place once your love for Allah grows. You know what I mean? I think people don't realize
after
that.
A point, if you stick around for 7-8 years, I think you yourself figure out what are the things that are easy for you to do, you know, say the hijab or whatever, and things which are not easy for you to do. For example, if you want to listen to music or not, or you want to, to what extent are you tolerating it in your life, and how difficult it is, because people have different backgrounds. We have to accept
that. That's right. Diversity.
Right. And another thing, do you have something to add? I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's pretty much it for this point, for personal experience.
Yeah, I think if one thing which I agree on is that if someone is on Tawheed, the person will at least not, if the concepts are good, the person will at least not apostate. However, one thing that I have, like one of the friend who was close to me again, you know, we studied together. So, in her case, I know that, yeah, her concepts were good. But what happened was that when she apostated, she moved to deism. She didn't go to atheism. And neither did she go back to, you know, what is like Hinduism, the multiple god worshipping. So, even that she didn't go into. So, her concept of Tawheed was that, there is one God and no shape and, you know, no gender whatsoever. So then she told me that no, I'm you know, what I believe now is deism. So I had to Google. I heard it from her for the first time, and that basically means belief in one God.
Oh wow.
But that's it, not the practices.
Oh.
And what I know is that, you know, because living with family, again, South Asian families are very, very intruding if you're living with them, and praying becomes a huge burden at home because the houses are tiny, and usually you are sharing your rooms with your siblings. So it becomes a big deal to keep up with prayer if you're staying with your family.
Yes, of course. I mean, that is a lot. That is a lot of converts. Like, that's a big reason why some of them just end up giving up, you know? Because it's so hard to practice at home.
Yeah, it becomes so tough, and as you said, it's easier to just, give up and end with it rather than live with the guilt of being a Muslim and not obeying and fearing Allah will punish and punish. So just stop thinking about it. So, I don't know. I still actually don't know what goes. I'm so confused, and I think about it so much.
I mean, like, we'll never know what is obviously in what's going through their heads or what's in their hearts, but like all we can do really is like be supportive, like give that support, you know.
So what about you? Have you personally had thoughts about, doubts about Islam, or has the thought of leaving Islam or apostating ever crossed your mind?
You know what? I definitely actually have. So yes, I have had thoughts and doubts before. But subhanAllah, like I recognize now that it's like it was from my own deficiencies and like faulty understanding of Allah. Because subhanAllah, like I came into Islam with a like Allah should give me this and I deserve that kind of mentality, like a very transactional understanding, you know, where like if I do this, then Allah should do this for me, like astaghfirullah. And then when my, for example, my duas like weren't answered right away, like I would question like why. Do you know what I mean? So like I remember like I was going through really hard trials and it was just dragging on way too long. And obviously like Shaitan was trying to attack from all corners, and like my lack of self-knowledge, I would say, was definitely to blame. And also like being really hasty. I think that's a big thing that we actually tend to overlook, is like most of the times we're very hasty. Like we want something right away. Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas like, obviously being a Muslim, like we are, the importance of being patient is like part of our faith, so I think we often overlook that. I did, definitely. Yeah, like I was just being very hasty, and I was expecting like I had an attachment. I had a very hard attachment to outcome, and like when things didn't go my way or didn't happen right away, like I started questioning like why is it like this? Like, why is my dua not being answered? And so then I started having doubts, you know what I mean? But the thing is, like, I personally think that it's natural. And I've like blogged about this many times on my One Chinese Muslim blog, and even the new one. I think it's natural to sort of have these thoughts because they're thoughts, like sometimes we can't control our thoughts. So, but what's important to understand, like for me, is that when I have like a lack of understanding of like the purpose of life and, what is the purpose of Tawheed, paired with like lack of self-knowledge, I think that is, I think that's what happens. I actually like I shared like this video clips on my stories like last week. When this episode is published, obviously it will be like, I don't know when, but just saying last week I shared on stories, something from Sheikh Mutassam, and he was talking about like how if we don't know ourselves and if our knowledge of ourselves is corrupt, everything we see through those lenses will be corrupt as well, including how we view Allah and how we look at Islam and all those things. So I think it's really important to understand, and I think that not many people understand this paradigm. So this is a big reason, I think, why this happens, like apostasy can happen. I didn't realize that like self-knowledge and like learning to unlearn a lot of things that I brought into Islam from my like previous life, I didn't know like how important it was to like work on that. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like becoming Muslim, like that's already like the first step, but a lot of us don't realize, and I'm just coming to learn this now, that like we bring in a lot of baggage with us when we become Muslim. So like all our childhood traumas, like all our things that we learn from society, that like comes into our new life as a Muslim. So if we're looking at life as a Muslim with that lens, we're definitely gonna see a lot of like corrupt things, because obviously a lot of the times like our childhood traumas, like things we were like raised or taught in within society, like it's corrupt and it's faulty. You know what I mean? So
yes,
that's what I mean by self-knowledge. So self-knowledge, I don't mean like, oh, like loving oneself to the point that like, you know, you become like narcissistic, or like you know what I mean, like the stuff that we see online.
yeah.
Like I don't mean it obviously like that, but for me self-knowledge is basically like self-awareness, and just always holding yourself accountable, like, you know what I mean? So I think it's really important. It's something that I definitely overlooked and did not know existed, hence why I had all these like thoughts, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's like my rambling.
You know, your answer's really good, and as you were speaking, I was actually thinking about all these aspects of myself. There was a lot of introspection happening on this side, whether I know myself well. With me even now, you know, why am I not being given this? So I think I have a lot to think and figure myself out.
That's the journey, right? That's the journey to being like improving ourselves, to being a better Muslim. Like we always have to just introspect and self-dialogue. You know what I mean? Like have the self-dialogue. A lot of people don't want to have that self-dialogue.
Yes.
They just want to quiet. They want to mute that self-dialogue. But I mean, even in Islam, it's important that we always have that self-accountability. I mean, it is from Islam.
This still happens with me though, you know, if I don't get something and I'm thinking whether, you know, why I'm not getting it, and it's too late, it's already been years. And it's recent, as you were saying, I think it's like something being directly told to me. I was taking it personally.
Yeah, that's just a human being though, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you're human, like it's natural to think that way. So, but I think like
it's a very difficult process.
It's
a really difficult process.
But only you can shift. You're the one who can shift that. Yeah, shift that perspective. You know what I mean? Like I can sit here and tell you all these things, but like for you to actually internalize it, like that's on you.
And to remember and to practice it.
Exactly. Not just all talk.
If someone comes up and tells you that the person's getting such and such thought, normally what we see is, you know, as you mentioned earlier, that people become like, oh my god, you should read this, you should read that, and that's kind of shaming. And how do you think, you know, should this happen?
Of course not. Like the only shaming allowed is for those like haram police who come at people throwing fatwas. Like I can't stand those. Like I really have no tolerance for those, and there's no tolerance for these types on TCB, as it's, you know, I try to make it evident. But anyways, I just had to throw that out there because I just have no tolerance at all. Because like, I guess we've known each other actually, like, you know, we haven't been like presently in each other's lives, but you've known me since like one Chinese Muslim blog. You know how I used to be, like very like, you know, hardcore keyboard warrior, like fatwa fanatic.
Yes.
Like I used to be one of those. So I just can't stand how I was, and I'm just so passionate about like anyone else who is like that, like just needs to be shamed, you know, because there's no place for that in Islam. Anyways, but going off of what you asked, I definitely don't think that anybody should be shamed for it. If anything, like we should recognize that it is an issue. I mean, the person who's feeling these thoughts or feeling these things, like should ask themselves, like, why do I feel this way? One needs to reach out to a trusted friend. Sadly though, like, you know, like we've been talking about, most of the time it's hard to find a trusted friend. It's really important not to shame sisters or shame people who are coming to you with such thoughts, because I feel like the more you shame them, like the more they're just going to be given a reason to be like, oh, okay, see, this is exactly why, you know, I should not be a part of this Muslim community anymore.
Right.
So yeah, and I think that there needs to really be a supportive place where sisters can go to someone without any judgment or like strings attached and just express their thoughts without being shamed, mocked, or whatever, judged like in an arrogant manner. Yeah, most of the times like they just feel lonely and need someone to listen to, and maybe inshallah we can open a place for this on TCB. I mean, I think we need to, you know, like you said, you reminded me of the pen pal program thing. Yeah, so inshallah we can try to work on that by Allah's help. But yeah, I think it's just really important. I feel, you know, like people who shame those who are like questioning their faith or having doubts, like I think they need to be careful, because that's very arrogant. You know what I mean? Because who knows, down the line you might be the one in the person's shoes who's, you know, questioning their faith. So we always need to like.
And who knows? One day they might come across someone like me who'll bash them black and blue and not take their shit.
Exactly.
They assume there is a reward or someone in a low point, so you know they will take every crap they say, and they vent their frustrations, you know.
But and don't tolerate
people
that.
Take it. Yeah, one person takes it, two takes it, 3, 4, 5 will take it. The 6th person will come and give you back your shit.
Yeah, like, you know, these people need to, and that's the thing, right? They keep doing it until someone, like you said, one day just comes
get
bashed. I don't tolerate this, like, at all. We don't tolerate any of this on TCB at all. And like,
I have in the past, you know, I have.
Of course.
We need to accept people's flaws. We are humans.
That's the thing. Yeah, we're not super Muslims. Nobody is a super Muslim. No matter how you paint yourself on social media, you are still a weak human being who needs Allah. Like, Allah does not need you or your services. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, some people just give themselves way too much self-importance. Honestly.
Yes. Just let them be important in their lives. Why are you coming and being important in their life?
Exactly.
Do you have any final thoughts or message for someone who is probably, you know, in two minds about Islam and having doubts?
So a message, I guess a brief message. I think you need to just refresh your intentions and ask yourself, like, what it was you found in Islam that sparked your flame. You know what I mean? Was it coming from within, or was it just like a cognitive thing, like you read and studied a bunch of textbooks and the idea of Islam was appeasing to you? You know what I mean? You need to know the difference, because like, if you're just, you know, if you converted just because you read a few textbooks and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool, it fits my intellect, like, that's not truly the right understanding. You know what I mean? Like, you really need to internalize what you've read in your heart. You know, and I always love to use the analogy of the seed, like the seed of Tawheed. Like, it's not planted in your mind, it's planted in your heart, you know, and it needs to be planted firmly, and you nurture it and you nourish it. If you haven't done that yet and you're just sort of growing something that's not yet nourished or nurtured properly, like, you cannot succeed in the long term. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I feel like this is the journey of life. So it's a long marathon and you need endurance. So if it's not like, if you're not trained for it, like if you're not spiritually trained for it, this topic of apostasy is what happens or can happen, you know? So I think like, that's a important point. And every person who is having doubts, it's obviously a case-by-case situation, right? So it's not, it's hard to give like a one-size-fits-all like message to those people. But if you're having doubts, like, I think you should definitely like reach out to one of us here on TCB, inshallah. Like, we're not obviously like scholars or professionals, and I think like we don't have to be in order to give you like support and just a listening ear, a lending listening ear.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. I agree a lot with what you've said, and in fact, all of what you've said, and especially the part where you said that, it's a long marathon. It is, and yes, it is going to start with a high, and it will eventually, wane off. And Iman is like the moon; it will sometimes be more, sometimes going to be low. So that's a part of the journey. Know that. Don't panic if you are in a low phase or things are not working according to you. One very important thing is, other than seeking support, yes, seek support, be with the good people. The other part of this thing is that shoo cruel people away. The iman will not last if you are with people who are, riding high horses about how. And see, we often, the mistake we make is that we stick around such people thinking that they will make our imans high and they serve reminders. But always trust your gut. If you get a negative vibe when someone's advising you and you feel that it's more of a shaming, run away. You will do better yourself. Trust yourself, trust Allah, and, trust isolation. Don't be scared to be in isolation and practice that. There will be times that you'll be alone, but it's okay. And secondly, if you're getting thoughts about apostating and if you feel it's getting too difficult, sit and analyze what part is getting difficult for you. Whether it's the hijab or whether it's living with family, and work on sorting that particular aspect out. Because if you let this doubt and this frustration thrive, and on the other hand, if someone from outside is pressurizing you and guilt tripping you about this, so you're making it very tough for yourself. Try to keep the journey as easy as possible and keep all the halal aspects of your birth life that you used to enjoy. For example, going out to eat with friends, or meeting them, hanging out, going for drives, whatever you used to like, staying up late night. Keep those things alive, don't bury your old self because you've converted, or you used to, visit, certain places or go for drives, whatever were the good things. Make an attempt to have good people, socialize with nice, sweet people, and also do the things that you used to do in the past that were halal.
That's very important.
Just because you have converted, because you'll be in for a huge culture shock then.
Yes.
I think the only thing which by and large changes mostly is on a huge scale. I'm speaking of a general crowd, maybe 40 to 50%, is that you give up worshipping someone else, you start praying salah, and you believe in Allah. And the hijab may be externally. That too, if it's not too difficult for you. Other than that, your life can remain intact as long as it's not, a lot.
Right. Like, I feel like... Exactly. I feel like a lot of us, and myself included, thought that, once I converted, I'm not allowed to have a personality. I'm not allowed to laugh at jokes and have fun, and I'm not allowed to be funny, or just... I could... Yeah. And that's wrong. That's a wrong understanding. Like, I feel like, we're not like, we didn't convert and become monks, like, we didn't convert to do that. Like, Islam is all about balance. So, like you were saying, like, leave the haram and, work on the halal. I mean, even leaving the haram, work on leaving the haram, which means like it's a gradual process. You know what I mean? Things that are haram, which you find easily you can leave, then leave it right away. But if there are things like you were mentioning, some sisters find it very hard to leave music, gradually work on that and keep asking yourself, like, why do I need music? What is it about music that, if there's something that's haram that you find you're struggling with it, first of all, always make dua and ask Allah to make it easy, because you want to please Him. That's why you became Muslim. Because you love Allah and you want to please Him. That is your sole purpose in life, So remember that and work towards that. That's the thing. Good point. Always work towards it. It's not like nobody's asking you to like dump everything right away. Like, Allah's not even asking for that. So don't listen to the background noises, these fatwa fanatics that I used to be.
I had one very funny incident that happened with me. So I was newly wed, and I have a habit till date. I sing Bollywood songs, okay, and it comes very it comes subconsciously. I don't do it
right.
because I want to, but it's just there since my childhood in me. So when I'm working, suppose if I'm very engrossed in something, I find myself, okay, I start singing. So my sister-in-law, she comes and she's like, "Ab gana ga rahi hai? You are singing songs. Isn't it haram?" So I was taken aback. I didn't even realize, and I was like, "No, music is haram. Without the music, it's just poetry."
Right.
So I can just sing whatever I want. Don't
Yeah, like I just subhanallah, like isn't it so funny? Like so many Muslims are like micromanagers.
Yeah, and I don't know where it came from, because I had never thought of it that till then actually I believe that yes, doing it consciously is haram. But the first time I was poked about it, or kind of what is it? It's called tokod in Hindi. So the first time that I was poked about it, it instantly came that no, it's poetry without music. And I'm like, where did it come from?
You know what? Like, this is normal. Like, it's so, like, this, like, I've always been thinking about this. Like, and I think a lot of born Muslims, they don't recognize this. And even some converts, like, everybody came from somewhere. We've had a past.
Right.
We've only known something our entire lives up until we became Muslim. You know what I mean? Right. Like, we need that grace period to, like, get it out of our system. And sometimes maybe it won't even be out of our system, but, like, at least we learn how to manage it and, like, control it and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, subhanAllah, like, that goes back to, like, what I was saying. Like, we bring a lot of baggage into our new life as a Muslim, and some sisters, like, it's so hard for them to just leave it ever. You know what I mean? So I think,
yes, absolutely.
And you know what? At the end of the day, like, that is the sister's own journey. It's not our journey. Like, it's not our place to.
We don't know where we'll end, right?
Exactly.
This is not the end, and how it ends, that matters the most.
Exactly. And it's not even, like, our business. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever, you singing, like, these poetry things or whatever, or, like, anyone just having little glimpses of their, like, past life or whatever. Like, it's just, like, whatever. That's not my business. You do you, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, so I feel like I could talk so much about this. Because we've, like, really, like, we've been in each other's, like, we've been through it, and we've also been in each other's, like, social circle, like, social media social circle. You know? So
yes.
It's definitely, like, we kind of, like, we can relate to each other, because we sort of, like, you've been on my journey when I was, like, extreme.
Yeah, I have read those posts of one Chinese Muslimah that you have deleted now.
Oh my god, astaghfirullah. And, like, I had a following. Like, there were other people just as extreme, and they were, like, cheering me on.
And that's the thing. Group on WhatsApp.
Yeah. Remember those? Oh my god.
I was there, yeah. I had your phone number at one point, not now.
Yeah, you did. We had, like, subhanAllah, those were the days, man. But not, like, good days.
I'm glad we're out of it.
Yeah, we're so toxic. So toxic.
I know.
But it's good to talk about, because, like, it's kind of, like, showing people that we've been through that journey. And, like, I know, subhanAllah, some people are still in that journey and stuck on that journey and will forever be stuck on the journey. But we don't, like, you shouldn't want that, because
they're not in our journey.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not, They're not.
Bye.
Yeah, we don't. That's the thing with TCB. Like, we don't want that kind of.
Yeah.
This disruption. We don't want that kind of disruption. You know. But yeah, it's just we wanted to illustrate that we've been on that journey, and I personally didn't like the person I was with being extreme and stuff. This is like totally off topic, but actually it kind of like does relate to this topic because like I feel like those fatwa fanatics are like a big part of why some sisters leave Islam. You don't want to be that person that causes a sister to be like, oh,
we harmed ourselves a lot as well.
We did. It is very, very dangerous. So don't be like that. Inshallah.
Yeah. And don't be with anyone like that.
Yeah, it's very toxic. It really will hinder your growth, your spiritual growth. Alright, so I think that's it. Really good discussion today. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Wait, let me just end it off here. This is Khadija and I am signing off. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam.